You'll find many opinions lurking around corners of the internet. Surely that's what the internet was created for. But one that seems really popular at the moment is that many Battlefield players, I don't know how many, could be a very small group, but there are a group of them that don't like 3D spotting. This is the mechanic where when you see an enemy in front of you, you hit the spot button and a little orange Dorito pops up above their head. That icon is the 3D spot icon, and plenty of people don't like it. However, it's been a part of the Battlefield series for a very long time now, and while yes, you can argue that it's a feature that's designed to help people see where enemies are and make it a little bit easier for them, it's also extremely powerful. As soon as you spot up a player, the rest of your team know where that player is. Lots of people think this is too casual, and rather it would be removed from Battlefield altogether. In the Battlefield 1 alpha, this 3D spotting mechanic was at first thought to be even more powerful than it currently is in Battlefield 4. The enemy player icons are much larger by default, they can be edited in the settings though, and the frequency of these icons appearing seemed to be even larger than before. That was because it was bugged. DICE have confirmed that some elements of the system that we saw in the alpha were not in their final stage, which means the mechanic behaved differently than was intended. One example here from a video made by Ravik shows that part of the system, passive 3D spotting, this is where you come into close proximity to an enemy and the 3D spotting icon shows up automatically, is broken at the moment so that players can be spotted without you even doing anything through solid objects. This clip was funny at the time, but it has been concluded now as a bug. Where I'd like to see further change though, and if I'm honest 100% here, I'd like to see a complete overhaul of the 3D spotting mechanic altogether. Spotting has always been available in every single Battlefield game as far as I can remember. Every single one that I've played has definitely had spotting in it, but I started playing Battlefield at the start of Bad Company 2, and the spotting mechanic hasn't really changed that much since Bad Company 2. Many people who played that game will find the spotting mechanic in Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Hardline, and now Battlefield 1 very similar to what it was back then, and this is why I think it needs a little bit of an overhaul. It's a very good idea when it was first implemented, but now the 3D spotting mechanic can make it extremely easy to just take out targets. Simply follow the orange Dorito, aim just below it, and you'll likely see hit markers light up. The mechanic has become much more robust in recent games, with DICE changing the icon so it disappears if a player walks behind cover or goes behind smoke, but it's still not perfect, and opinion is massively divided over how it should really work. So I'm going to give my opinion on how I think it should work in Battlefield 1. There are two different types of spotting in this game. You have active and passive spotting. Active is where you physically push the spot button, and passive is where the icon simply pops up automatically. First of all, active spotting. If you see a player, aim down the sight, and then hit spot, an icon should appear on your screen. But that icon should be blank, with no markings on it whatsoever. This shows to you and the rest of your team that you've spotted a player, but you haven't done much more than that at the moment. If you try and spot a player while you're not aiming down sight, the cone of activation, and that's to say the area on your screen where you need to be facing to activate the spot mechanic, needs to be very narrow, similar to what it is in Battlefield 4 right now. You might remember that about 6 to 8 months ago, DICE changed the way that spotting worked so that you had to be very accurate when looking at a player to actually spot them. That kind of mechanic should be kept for Battlefield 1. Once you've initially spotted that player, if you continue to aim down the sights and keep them spotted on the enemy, after a few seconds, the icon should change to an icon that we see right now in Battlefield 1, one that shows the class of the soldier that you've spotted. Now this is an extra layer of information, so you know what to expect if they start to shoot back at you. You know what class they are, so you're going to know generally what weapon they're using. You're spending valuable seconds continuing to aim at that player, and for that you give your team extra information that could help them out. It is a sacrifice though, as you could be standing out in the open, which leaves yourself exposed to attack, so there is a trade-off there. If you want to continue aiming down your sights to get more information, you're going to help your team out, but it could leave yourself in a dangerous situation. This second layer of 3D spotting would be particularly useful for the Scout class, which is specifically designed in Battlefield 1 to provide intel to the rest of their team. They have the time to aim at a target for longer than the majority of other infantry players on the server. The same system could be applied if you're in a vehicle needing to use first-person view to spot people more effectively. As a continuation, I'd like to see the opacity and size of the icons be implemented much more effectively. The further a player is away from you, the smaller and less visible that icon should be. Ideally, you want to be focusing on what's actually going on around you, not what's happening 150 meters away. If you spot someone off in the distance, the icon should be much more visible to the people close by to that enemy, who would definitely find that information much more helpful than probably what you do when you're staring another enemy right in the face. I'd also like to see the time a player is spotted for massively decreased as well. My mention of continuing to aim at a spotted player, I think, solves this issue, as if you continue to aim at someone, they should remain spotted because you are physically and actually spotting them by looking through your sights. If you take your sights away from that player, then after maybe 2 or 3 seconds, that icon should disappear. You've chosen to change your current objective if you look away from that player. So to leave them spotted for 5 to 7 seconds, which is what I think is the value in Battlefield 4 right now, I think that's just a little bit silly. It'll also help to reduce the HUD clutter, that and along with the size and opacity of the icons over distance. Secondly, we have passive spotting, where the game automatically pops up a 3D icon when you're in sight of and in close proximity to an enemy. It does this automatically because you didn't realise they were there, and the game is simply trying to help you out. I'd like to see this massively reduced, or completely removed for that fact. I'd say an acceptable range for the passive spotting to activate is probably between 5 and 10 meters when you're playing as infantry, and maybe 10 to 15 meters if you're playing in a vehicle. And the icon that appears should simply be a blank red circle, offering no information other than an alert that there's an enemy right next to you. Preferably, I'd like to see passive 3D spotting gone completely, although I do think that's extremely unlikely to happen. Now that was a lot of information, I'll grant you that, so if you missed any of it or you didn't quite understand, I would encourage you to go back and listen to it again, and then go down into the comments and give me your own opinion, because I've got a funny feeling that there will be a lot of people who will have very different opinions to me on this. But I've tried to find what I think is a middle ground. The mechanic is something that Battlefield players now expect to see in a Battlefield game, so if you remove it, it would just become very jarring in general. I've tried to offer some tweaks to it so that spotting becomes more valuable and skillful, rather than simply turning the game into a Dorito hunt simulator. As I said, I'd encourage you to leave your opinions down below in the comments. I'll be down there reading through all of them, and I'll do my best to offer this video to DICE for feedback on the 3D spotting system. They have admitted that it's broken right now, and they are probably right in the middle of fixing it, but they also understand that opinions on the system are extremely divided. So if you've got one, put it in the comments, and I'll try and get this video across to DICE so they can look at all these opinions that people have and maybe try and find a solution to what is a very divided mechanic. Thanks very much for watching. As I said, leave your comments below. I'll be replying to as many as I can. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.